Thank you so much, Program Director. I like the revolutionary common sense, hey, is that you keep us on our toes and the show goes on. Thank you. And I know it's Friday. So as it gets afternoon, so our desire to be punctual will exponentially rise. Okay, Lance. Oh. Welcome everybody, and I think we might start to be, we are being joined by some of our Canadian colleagues as the time frames or time zones begin to align a bit better for us. So a very warm welcome to everybody, both in the room and virtually. We are staying with component 3000 of BIGM, and here we're going to zoom in a little bit to the focus being on SALGA, and the improved capacity of SALGA to implement effective governance arrangements in the context of BIGM. So I am very pleased to invite Lance Joel, the COO of SALGA, to please take a seat in my lounge. Lance, statements were said about your hairstyle. I would like to compliment you on it. I think it's called COVID chic. And you've got a lot more than I do, so I'm envious. I'm also going to introduce you to my guests, Lubabalo Loyaba. I understand that you might be here. If you are online, you're online. Okay, great. Ms. Makey Vetch, I think is online. No, okay, sorry. We're dealing with some live issues. I know Dr. Sunshine Blow is here. I remember you from the TV, online, the BIGM TV. Craig Goliath, you're here, fantastic. Ms. Tatu Bopape, you are so welcome. And Ms. Unesimo Notobela, I think, is joining us online. Thank you so much. So you're not Tatu Bopape, sorry about that. Maybe she's joining us online. We will soon find out.
She is joining online, Jeremy.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry about the confusion. Please feel very welcome in these white chairs that allegedly had heating on them, but I don't think it's really true. Okay, but to get us started, Lance, you're gonna give us a presentation. And if there's one person that can make slides come alive, it's Lance. So Lance, show us the way and give us some thoughts, points to ponder as you get us started. What I will invite you to do, Lance, is just feel comfortable where you are. And there's a microphone on your left in the chair. And you know how the microphone works. You hit it harder and harder and harder until it comes on. Sorry, audio people, I know you don't do that. I'm going to be made personally liable for this expenditure. We're just getting Lance's presentation prepared. I think it's almost ready. Is it the right one, Lance? Lance, maybe point it there. I think there's something happening there. There we go. Otherwise, Lance, what you can do is when you press it, just say next.
Well, thank you very much, Program Director, and also greetings to all of the colleagues. I am quite aware that I am on a clock, so I will try and be fairly brief. Something I'm not known for, but I will try. The presentation as an input to anchor the conversations is in 4 parts. The first part is really to paint a picture, and program director, if you look at the intent of the item on the program, it is not to repeat what was said yesterday by the SALGA NEC deployee and champion of this program. It is rather to look more internally focused, and as we are going to get inputs from key stakeholders, he wants me to remove my mask. I am not going to, if he doesn't mind. Thank you very much.
Power.
Yes. I'm from Gauteng. You know the numbers in Gauteng. So it's not for me, it's for you. So it is really to selfishly look internally and then extend an invite to my fellow panelists on what we could do jointly. This slide looks very busy, but it's really saying 3 things. The first one is that we have a policy framework through the white paper on local government that makes a problem statement. It then defines and or prescribes a role for the association as SALGA. And then it also says what SALGA should do in order to respond to that particular role. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the references we would want to make, if you look at the entire slide itself, is the middle part of it, is what specifically SALGA has been asked to do. And the first one is effective representation of local government, meaning the entire sphere, to play the employer's organization role. And you would have seen us being slaughtered by the trade unions over the last, while the employee representative organizations over the last few weeks on this matter. And then lastly, the developmental role that SALGA should assist municipalities on by providing specialized services, research and information sharing, lessons learned, and then the big component is training. Now, if you take it further, so that's the white paper on local government, and you take it further to the Systems Act itself, and we sometimes within SALGA wonder why people are looking at us for answers, and this is the reason why. When you look at the Systems Act itself, it says SALGA must do 4 things. It must develop common approaches for local government as a distinct sphere. It must find solutions for problems in the local government space. Importantly, find solutions for problems that relate to local government generally. Enhance cooperation, mutual assistance, and sharing of resources, and then facilitate, it's a huge role, facilitate compliance by others in the intergovernmental space with the principles of cooperative governance. And it's a huge responsibility given to SALGA as an organization. So when you look at the organization in terms of what the policy and legislative prescripts require, you then see us having defined a mandate for ourselves, and that mandate is informed largely by member municipalities, what they expect us to do, and it's on these 6 pillars. I'm not going to run through them individually, but if you look at the individual mandates, there's a link between this and what the policy and legislative prescripts require from the organization. But the problem statement really is that despite many of the things said in the white paper on local government, in particular, the promise in the white paper on local government that SALGA must be funded we're currently sitting at the 5% funding from the national government itself. So 5% of what we spend is coming from national government. 95% of it comes from municipalities themselves. So there's a heavy reliance of the organization on municipalities that themselves are experiencing their own cash flow constraints, and our levy collections are not super. And to be honest, we are sitting at a 75% levy collection rate. So it is not easy. So that's internally focused stuff. But when you look at externally, the realities are that local government is yet to realize its ability to be a developmental and capable agent for society. And we have heard many of these challenges in the media recently. We've also seen, particularly this week, when the AG spoke about the audit outcomes of municipalities, preparing us for what is going to be released next week, is we continue to see the inability of municipalities to be financially viable and sustainable. And lastly, municipalities are still struggling to provide sustainable services. Now, within the context of the mandate of SALGA and how it has crafted a role for itself, based on the legislative prescripts vis-a-vis the problem statements, how do we respond to this particular challenge? And in our view, Program Director, you would be surprised, I'm on the last part of the presentation. In our view, if we really want to move forward and assess the sphere of local government and breathe life into the developmental role given to local government, there are a few things that must happen, and they are listed on this slide. So I'm not going to run through them individually, but I think I must focus on a few of them. And in the middle, in the blue, you find something that does not happen quite often in the local government space, and that is reconnecting local government to communities, meaning anchoring communities in what happens or what does not happen in the local government space. We have seen over an extended period the distance between municipal councils and communities becoming wider and wider and wider. So that's an area that we need to respond to. We need to also look at mobilizing new resources. So when I speak to my colleagues on the left and the right of me on the stage, this is where we think they can play a role. And then we also need to look at ensuring that there is a creation of a more collective vision between ourselves as institutions in the local government space, and working together as organizations to collectively respond to the challenges that finds expression in our municipalities. So when we talk about partnerships, we would want to invite all and sundry. We want everyone's hands to be on deck. We would want to call on all those operating in the local government space to join us on this journey to respond to the developmental needs of our communities, and using local government as the vehicle to respond to those particular needs. So what we require is partnership, and you would see on this particular slide, ourselves as SALGA, we relate and connect with a number of entities anchored with the government itself, our municipalities, and then there are a range of role players that we would want to invite to become part of the conversation. So when you look at the title of this topic that we are discussing now, it talks about improving the capacity of SALGA. Now, my colleagues who would know my view internally in the organization would have heard this before, and I'm going to restate it for the benefit of all present today. When we talk about SALGA capacity, it does not mean SALGA identifying a problem, provide a solution, but employ people to implement that solution. So we are not an employment agency. So it cannot be that when we talk about SALGA capacity, we would want to think of it as warm bodies in the organization. SALGA capacity would include tapping into the resources that finds expression across all of these stakeholders, some of whom are better placed than ourselves to be part of the solution. Ours, central to the mandate of the organization, is to coordinate and facilitate as we go about lobbying support from these respective entities to assist SALGA in executing its mandate. So SALGA capacity is both those sitting within the organization, but more so tapping into the resources that find expression across the green blocks that you find on the slide. And we have been quite fortunate in the international space to have had strategic partners, and FCM has been one of them, with the support of GAC. As some of the international partners that we have tapped into their resources, their expertise, their experience to assist us in responding to our mandate as an organization. So we are calling upon our colleagues sitting on the stage and those who are connected virtually to make their contributions on how they will partner with us to assist municipalities in responding to their developmental mandate. And that's my contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lance. It's not easy, I should think, that reconnecting piece. And then, of course, all hands on deck. It also is the imperative, but coordinating all those hands, conducting them is another challenge. And I think it creates a very nice frame for us to get going with some of the hands that have joined. So how do we all play our parts in addressing this challenge of improving government capacity, local government capacity, but with effective governance arrangements? So let's get going with some reflections. And I'd like to start where we are geographically with you, Dr. Blow. You're the CEO of the Cacadu Development Agency. So talk to us a little bit about how you see this challenge, how we can address it, what you think works, and what are we getting out of the BIGM partnership approach?
Thanks, Program Director, for the opportunity, to engage on this very, very serious and a very important topic, following from such an articulate, high-pitched presentation by Mr. Joel. I'm new within let's forget about that presentation, colleagues. I think the issues that Mr. Joel that are contained in the presentation that have put together are precisely what the latter speaker has articulated on. But for me, it's just looking into. I like to follow the money trail. And one of the things that, in my view, that we need to pay serious attention within the local government space is following those money trail. and not whine, but look at the opportunities arising of those money trail. It's an accepted fact that the national government as well as the provincial government gets, the bigger share of, budget allocation, and less than 10% goes through to local government. What is important here, Chair, is for local government, we begin to look at the programs that come from national government, as an example, because some of those programs are funded programs, and they find expression those programs as well within, the provincial government space. And now those programs, they need to go to that very level where everything is implemented, which is in the local municipality space. And this is precisely what we as an agency are trying to do, Chair. A case in point, there are already 4 master plans that has actually been approved here in South Africa, led by the Department of Trade and Investment, Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, DTIC. What are those master plans? There's a poultry master plan, there's a sugar master plan, there's a clothing, textile, footwear, and leather master plan, there's an automotive master plan. And now let's look at the Eastern Cape. What has actually been our engagement with those master plan? Let's take clothing, footwear, leather, and textiles. And you find that we as this province, we like to term ourselves, and in particular my district, as the hub of the mohair industry. And remember, those master plan, their intent is to ensure or enhance content localization, value-added opportunities arising out of our competitive advantages. The question that needs to be asked, how are our LED strategy at a local level aligned to those funded mandates? There's a steel and furniture master plan that is yet to be completed. If you look into our district, Tsitsikama forestry area, what is our contribution as the local municipality, which is your Kokama municipality, the district, into that furniture master plan? Because we have the forestry, but what normally happens, we see logs going out of our district. So this is the responsibility of the agency that seeks then to look at the different value chain opportunities and how can we expand our commercial activity, in particularly in those value chains where we as a district have got both the comparative and competitive advantages. There are about 8 master plans that are in the draft as we talk, Chair, your agriculture and agro-processing master plan. Here we are as this province and the district claiming to say agriculture is a priority sector. But beyond words, how are we influencing and have a bigger cake already on the funded mandates that looks at the agriculture and the agro-processing value chain opportunities? What are those opportunities that found resonance within our district? And this is how, in my view, we can increase, the cake of the allocation by being strategic on how we plan. So to end at this point, Chair, I come from a background of your national system of innovation. At a local space, there is no space created for innovators. And I'm saying that with the most humbleness, Chair. You have just to look at the innovation pipeline that comes within the university system. Let's talk of our university system here, Rhodes University in my district. To which extent is the research throughput that comes from Rhodes find expression in our LED strategy. The same is true for Walter Sisulu in KSD. So how then do we reimagine the entirety LED offering, responding exactly to what Mr. Joel was actually saying, Chair? And I always said, to my colleagues that are within the municipality, I said the 100% guaranteed funding allocation, probably it's a limitation in stretching our imagination, because people only report on already the allocated budget and not see reason on how can you use the allocated budget as a seed capital to expand your offering. So I'll stop there, Chair, and give opportunities to the other panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. I think some very interesting provocations, which I think is good. Follow the money trail, beyond words. I think this is probably a theme. It's beyond words into action. Councillor van Heerden, if I continue with my white collar, how do we move from lamentations to acts? I think we've got honorary doctorates in lamentations, and we're still in primary with acts. And I think that's the space to exploit. And Mayor of KSD yesterday was talking about, or was it his official, I'm not sure, about the relationship with the university, that coming together between municipalities and institutions of higher learning for innovation. I can't believe that we haven't got that right. It's a fundamental disconnect, and it's got to do with relationships again. And stretch your imagination. I love that. And I think I would even say, in terms of the revolutionary acts, is to claim space at the local level and take it. I think got to do that now. But then look at me, I'm talking again. Thanks for getting us going. I'm very interested by what you're saying. Onosimo, let's go to you from Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries. What's standing out for you about some of these issues, an approach like BIGM? Are you taking anything away from this approach in your work in your department? And what's standing out for you and what's next for you? Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jeremy. I'm Onesimo Notobela from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. But I'm coming from the component environment. I am seconded in the OR Tambo District Municipality as the local government support. I will be very biased, Jeremy, because I've been working with Port St. John's in terms of the climate change and asset management. So my work or my input today will be based on that. Mm-hmm. I should think the partnership, the BIGM as a program has assisted us because we coming from a very regulatory kind of, in terms of how our department is fashioned. So it served as a base to motivate and to be able to be in a very level ground in terms of understanding environmental issues broadly in the municipality. So we're able to, where the municipality was now able to hear of environmental issues from another institution in terms of now the knowledge that has been impacted to them and the expertise that have been shared with them. So it was easy for us to penetrate in that space, because out of the program or the BIGM, we could see that there is a recognition and prioritization of environmental issues broadly. I won't just zoom on climate change, on environmental issues broadly in the municipality. And if you look at how things were, you would understand that you should be getting that just only from the environmental section. But it was then, you would find it in engineering. They would know that there is a need when we undertake a projects that there is a need to do EIAs, because they do understand the need for sustainability. And also the integration of matters. When we were bringing projects in the municipality, they were able to integrate with what they have. I would cite, for example, the Good Green Deeds. They used it very efficiently to ensure that they when raising awareness, they make use of it to ensure that they are able to reach out in the communities. Also, in terms of what else that came out in terms of this, as a department, we are supposed to also give a technical support, but it was easy out of this partnership because the understanding was there, and the municipality could take us that we are no longer fighting, we are trying to assist the municipality. And out of this, we're able, as a sector now, even though the commitment is coming from the department where I come from, that out of the BIGM, it was easy to get a commitment to get funds to develop a climate change response strategy for the municipality. I think the department is busy with that at this particular point, where at the supply chain processes as we speak. So beyond at the BIGM, we were able to take out something from the program that will assist the municipality in terms of planning and also guiding the smart city that is proposed for the municipality. I would also cite that in the municipality years back and even before the BIGM, there was no unit that was dealing with environmental issues. So we made use of the opportunity to ensure that the municipality is able to have their internal person who is able to advise on environmental issues. So there is a personnel, and it was out of this program. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Unosimo. Some real practical benefits, and I'm for people that don't know, I'm sitting in between the mayor of Port St. John's and a support resource to Port St. John's. So I'm just making sure that I don't I don't get something wrong, but it sounds like such a constructive, contextually relevant approach of a department doing its work in support of a municipality. And I love what you're saying about environmental issues becoming part of the language and understanding across departments. And I'm sure even more broadly, as we'll hear this afternoon, with the citizenry, even into schools, into pupils, etc. I want to just stay with you for one more question. In your work, do you work with other municipalities as well? And if so, how has this experience with Port St. John's on this initiative affected that work?
Okay. I do support all the other 5 LMs. Also KSD is just that the support was in LED, of which I support environment. So to me, the partnership, we're saying this even outside to Tebucho, that how we wish that because it was able to change the mindset, convert the unconvertibles in terms of the environmental issues. I'm sorry to say that, and bring in the political buy-in, because we could see the mayors in the forefront, and then it's easy for everyone to come in. So we're saying how we wish this can be extended to the neighboring municipalities, so that we can see the change and the commitment that we are getting, so that at least when we move, we are moving in one. We don't just have Port St. John's as a better municipality, but if you go to Imuza, you still get the same, because in terms of how the environment is, you shouldn't be getting a change of things as you move to the other side of the municipality. So to me, I should think, even though it cannot be that much easy for us to replicate as things were. Remember now, as I said, we're coming in as a regulatory function as a department. So it's not so easy. The other one is on the defense side. So the program itself is helping us so that to have a mutual understanding on things. Thank you.
Great. I'm really grateful for that last point, because in some ways, we're saying how I wish we could. And in some ways, what we're concluding is, isn't it great that we can? Having had the experience, we've had a lived experience of something and can start to shift. And I'm sure for departments like yours with that sort of regulatory function, Often you seem to be like the inspector or the police or whatever. But building the bridge of understanding, of course, makes that role possible in a constructive way. Thank you very much for those. Craig, you're the only guest that's been to my lounge twice. Oh. Who was with us yesterday that's been with us today? Let's not test our memories. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. No, thank you. I'm listening to my political advice. Well, don't even go there because I might expose myself. Craig, you are with Cogta, and you are there to support and regulate in some ways municipalities in the province. What is the BIGM experience brought to you, and how you see things?
Thank you, Jim.
You have an amazing voice, but it will broadcast better with a microphone.
Yes. So I'm challenged with two things. That is this mask, which sort of stifles me as well as the mic. So I'm going to do the normal thing.
Okay. No, then use the switch and then do it a little bit more gently after you've used the switch. Good. Okay.
I think we're winning on this one.
Okay.
So I think on the BIGM, I think there's a few things that I would want to share. I would call it patkos. In Afrikaans, it means takeaway for those people that don't necessarily speak Afrikaans. So what is our takeaway? And also as a province, where did we stand on the matter, especially on the BIGM? I think the first thing is that international partnerships are very, very complex. And as a province, it's important that the province was in it full, they say lock, stock and barrel, so that we see the partnership through from the word go all the way to the end. And this is what Cogta had done. This is what the province has done around this particular partnership, because often international partnerships, they are fantastic on the outset, on the onset, but if they're not managed correctly, they could really potentially create a lot of risk issues, both not only reputational risk issues. Let me talk about reputational issues for the province, but also for any other partnership that any other province would want to run across the country. And so we were blessed by having the BIGM program in the Eastern Cape, the only province, to the best of my knowledge, where the program is being implemented. And that already came with its own set of responsibilities, because we needed to make sure that the partnership is, one, sustainable, and that there's continuity in terms of its leadership and implementation, and that it is successful. So that in future, when we move ahead, we are comfortable to say that as a province, we are able to work with any other partner across the globe, because we've done it successfully before and we can do it successfully again going forward. So I think for me, that would be one of the most important aspects of why Cogta and where Cogta's role was very, very important. I mean, there are other issues that that are not as important, of course. The technical aspects to the program, the capacity. I think my colleague Joel spoke about connectivity and building up those partnerships and making sure that we work together and so forth. I'm just reflecting on some of the points in his presentation, but for me that was one of the most important aspects of it, about the partnership. I think what I really appreciated about the partnership, and also as part of my patkos, is the stick-with-itness and the continuity of leadership. I think that if we are going to take anything away from this partnership, I must encourage people to understand that in any partnership, you need stick-with-itness. You need to know that I'm in it for the long run, and that things take time to mature, and then they gain momentum. And once they just on the most exciting part, we come to the end of the road. and you reflect and say, oh, this is where we are. So I think what I really appreciated was that throughout this program, the leadership of the municipalities, the leadership of the program itself was consistent. There was absolute stick-with-itness from everyone in the room. And that is something that we really need to give ourselves a pat on the back on, from both sides of the continent, so to speak, both from our Canadian partners as well as ourselves around that aspect of it. The other point that I want to raise is often we have an idea that partnerships is a one-way street. Partner, it's synonymous with donations. That's what we think. We think, okay, they'll give and we'll take. And in this particular partnership, my experience has been not that at all. That we've had engagements both at a personal level. I can reflect on my visits to Canada and also explaining things on how we do things in South Africa and how others do things in other parts of the world. And really, this was a partnership about sharing technical know-how, getting to understand the world from a different perspective, and filling in the gaps that one partner may be lacking in, where there's other partners able to fill that gaps. And so there was this being able to share technical know-how, technical expertise, and seeing the world from all different views. And that is really, really worthwhile in terms of the take-home. I think I want to just perhaps make one more point. I was reflecting on the presentation, the note, the ending discussion yesterday by one of our presenters on the, it was the undertaker and the blue suit and the blue suit and the brown suit. I know maybe people that were not here yesterday may not remember this, but the long and short of it was that the undertaker had removed the head of one person and put it onto the other. And I reflected on it afterwards, and I thought to myself, this is what happens when there are expectations about a relationship that is not always clear. In our example yesterday, the undertaker was the widow expected the undertaker to change the color of the suits, and all the undertaker did was he changed the heads of the persons in the coffin. And for me, the lesson there was that you need to clarify your expectations. You need to know the roles of your partner and the expectations of that particular partner. And in this particular example with the BIGM program, from the onset, the expectations you continually talk about, program 1000 and so forth. Our roles were clarified very simply, and the expectations were clarified. And so the partnership was very successful based on those very important aspects about the clarity of roles and the clarity of expectations. And so if there's one more thing that I'd want to take away, would be that aspect of it. Let me stop there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Craig. Patkos, I like that. And you gave us another English word. I don't know. It's the first time I've heard it. The stick-with-itness. Did everybody get that? Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna. So it's a combination of words. Stick with it. The competence of sticking with it. What's perseverance? I don't know. Nyamazela, what's in close? Staying the long course, staying with it. What's interesting about what you're saying, Craig, is that a lot of these things, it's the common sense piece which we often miss because we think it's going to be a fancy program which is outside of what we used to. And yet, in fact, a lot of these things that you're talking about is, being prepared to persevere. The issue of leadership of it, the time it takes, being clear of roles and responsibilities. And I think this point that you're raising about the capacity to manage an international relationship, moving beyond we have needs, you have resources. That seems to be the big shift here, is that we are partners in the journey of creating better responses to our challenges. And I think that, to me, from where I'm sitting as your facilitator, that seems to be a really important thing, because as Jack Ma, Alibaba's leader, said in a very interesting chat to the World Economic Forum, he said, anything you've learned in a book, you can forget about, because the apps and technology has taken that. But everything that you do that is creative and relates to other people is what is left for us humans. So he was saying what we should be teaching our children is no longer things you can learn in books, but how to be creative, how to express yourself, how to collaborate in arts and sport. It was such an interesting speech. And I think this collaboration between relational competence, technical competence, both deployed in the context of Canada and South Africa, is what this has really yielded. I might have got it wrong, Tebogo, but I think we've got Mr. Lubabalo Loyaba online, who is a director at the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency, MISA. This is another key role player in the support architecture of local government. And yeah, there's a lot of useful lessons to learn from this partnership and how MISA approaches these. So let's welcome Lubabalo to the screen and hear about your experiences of working on this initiative. And what are you taking away?
Good afternoon. Is it afternoon? Yes, let's say it's afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair, and everyone who's in attendance. Apologies that we couldn't be there physically, but I'll borrow one from lunch that says it's for your sake. We don't want to bring Gauteng COVID to the beautiful province of the Eastern Cape. I think what I've sort of framed this around is a MISA perspective on scaling, institutionalizing, and sustaining the BIGM principles in South African municipalities. The province that you're in has a wonderful saying. You must get someone to translate it into Xhosa for you that says, a beautiful thing is repeated or a beautiful thing is replicated. And so that's what we've taken forward for ourselves as MISA, to say, how do we replicate this wonderful thing that we've learned through the BIGM process? So I've just got 3 slides. It's what we have learned from BIGM as MISA. It's how we are applying what we have learned. So going beyond the stories, and then also talking to how we plan to continue using what we have learned. And I'll just park it there. So in terms of what we have learned, I think as MISA, obviously we support municipalities with issues of infrastructure. So one of the big things that we discovered through this program is a useful course by IPWE, the Institute, the Institute of Public Works Engineering Australasia, that takes a 5-fold approach to infrastructure asset management specifically. That says you've got to get the governance and the policy right. You've got to blend that with the people and the leadership. You've got to have the data and the information to support that. You need planning and decision making to complement that. And then ultimately you need to contribute to asset management practices. So as an institution, we've typically sometimes just focused on maybe one element of those versus taking all of them in terms of how we work with municipalities. So that's one big lesson that we've learned. And we're in the process of effecting reforms that will improve infrastructure asset management, that will help us build more resilient and green municipalities going forward. And I think, again, in terms of applying what we've learned, I think we are improving how we identify priority areas in municipalities, just quickly in 5 areas. We are in the process of developing programs to improve asset management practices. There's already reforms in effect that were started at the beginning of this year, which will come into effect come 1 July for municipalities, which is the new financial year. I think we're also trying to improve how we track progress over time and the benefits of the work that we do. We're doing work on improving our reporting in terms of municipal infrastructure. And I think the really big one that we've perhaps not been as strong on as we should be is building co-learning environments and platforms, which I think the BIGM program really has thrived on and pushed forward And I think if we're to be theoretic about it, it's that principle of appreciative inquiry of saying everyone's got something to bring to the table. How do we get everyone to bring their best to the table and build using that? And I think in terms of how we plan to continue using what we've learned, I think it's increased collaboration between the various municipal stakeholders. The second is improving municipal infrastructure, data, and information management practices through various ways. I think what we've learned again is that without data and information, credible or evidence-based decision-making is nearly impossible. And I think South Africa in general, not just local government, but provincial and national, is quite weak when it comes to that. So many a times the decisions we make on how to support, when to support, and who to support in local government are opinions that are actually not fact-based. And it's something that we're trying to improve and build on, and that we've picked up in the Canadian municipalities is something that's quite strong. And then the third is really working hard to expose the youth to the sector, to build a credible skills pipeline and attract the best minds to municipal infrastructure. I'll give some examples of the projects that we've actually already run in that regard, because again, it's municipalities, which in our opinion are the most complex organ of government, don't have the best and the brightest, then the country is not going to move in the direction that we'd like it to. So the question is, how do we innovate to attract the best and the brightest to local government? The next is policy making and legislative reforms to promote the building of inclusive green municipalities. It's again an area we want to focus on. And then the next is building strategic partnerships with institutions of higher research and higher education to assist us in building with municipalities in an all hands on deck approach. I think quite a bit has been said about the role of universities and their outputs in terms of getting us to move in the direction that we'd like. And then the last, I think, is providing integrated training targeted at an operational level, at a management level, and a council level on infrastructure asset management. One of the useful lessons that we've actually picked up again in Canadian municipalities is that those levels are all in sync, and there's an understanding, an appropriate understanding by all in terms of what their role is in the picture. And that's something that sometimes in South Africa we don't quite do as well as we should. And as I was saying, as an institution, we were not shy to say, where do we improve? What have we been getting wrong? And what can we learn from our own municipalities and outside the country to improve how we do things? I'm not going to really get into these. I think it's just important that we continue collaborating to build these inclusive green municipalities using all the skills and resources that we have. Again, another big thing that we learned is that, unfortunately, we have to learn it, is that money is not always the answer. Unfortunately, we don't have any money. So we need to innovate. And the question is, how do we do more with the same or less? And I think the last there is that example innovations of using students to improve municipal infrastructure asset management practices we started a program called Data for MIA, which is data for municipal infrastructure assets, that is noted and supported by all and is then scaled. Very quickly, Chair, I'll just run into some of the programs that we've run to date. I think in December, we ran a program where we had various projects. The first was just looking at the evaluation of the local government equitable share adequacy for municipal infrastructure asset management. I know the text is quite small. The point is not really to get into the detail, but again, this was a data intensive exercise that we said, we've got students who suggest that they don't have back work and they're bored during the holidays. We've got municipalities that are inundated with work. We've got government that says it's got too much work to do. How do we get those three parties to work together to actually add value in terms of driving the country forward while exposing our young best and brightest to this very exciting sector that is municipal infrastructure development? So we did various programs there looking at the equitable share, looking at the issues of wastewater treatment and the technology, looking at how we increase efficiencies in terms of municipal infrastructure development, looking at, someone spoke about new cities, getting the youth again to imagine and give us 3D models of what future cities and towns could look like from their perspective. And they happen to be the people that will be around the longest, at least in theory. And we did some work on updating the Eastern Cape water and sanitation master plan. We also did some work on infrastructure asset management plans for selected Eastern Cape water service authorities. We did a very exciting project for, we're yet to share the results, for the Port St. John's and Ingqueza Hill local municipalities. We called it a virtual bridge assessment, which says basic infrastructure is quite critical, without going to site and using things like Google Earth? Can we not assess where this critical infrastructure is needed but not in place? And that speaks to, when we look forward, things like machine learning and things that we could automate as we go forward. So that's the type of work that we've done, inspired by lessons from our Canadian counterparts and noting the needs of municipalities. And more is planned, obviously, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thanks so much, Lubabalo. Some really inspiring applications of some of the, perhaps the mindset shifts that we're talking about, this thing of innovation. Going back to you, Dr. Blau, like the virtual bridge building is a very interesting thing because you can do it with all of the data that's out there now. One doesn't have to do it in the old way. So some really inspiring things. Thanks, Lubabalo. So, you know, Lance, it seems that there is so much out there. All hands on deck. Is that a blessing, or is it a bit of a challenge now? Because sometimes, be careful what you wish for. It seems there's so much out there, and we are all eager to help. It's a little bit like, you know, sometimes when you, like if I think of myself, you know, when if I were to break down with a car, I have no technical knowledge, and then all these people that have got technical knowledge come to help me, and I don't know what to do with that support sometimes, or I'm forced to take it. So I'm wondering, how do you as SALGA start to leverage all of this amazing support, technical, you know, we've heard from a number of them on your panel and from Lubabalo at MISA. But I would wonder what has happened with you in SALGA as a result of the BIGM experience, and how's it changing the way in which you address this aspect of your mandate? And I'm going to come to the rest of my guests after you, Lance, to ask you to start thinking about, all of you have said inspiring things about how the organization works, but what's going on with you as individuals? How are you going to actually infect in the most positive way a different mindset in the organizations that you work with in the context that we're in now? So let's start with you, Lance.
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy, and also thanks for the colleagues for the contributions. There are two things I want to further contribute in response to the question that you're posing, and then conclude on what I think is the key word. The two things I think in the main that this BIGM project has done. Firstly, it has opened our eyes in both understanding but more so appreciating the value of community participation in programs. And very often we quite conveniently forget that when you go to the Structures Act and it defines a municipality comprises of the municipal council, the staff, and thirdly, communities. And for some reason, we have largely focused on the two legs, being the staff and the political leadership, and have over time neglected the communities. And BIGM has shown us that there's such an immense contribution that should be made by communities. You would have seen across our municipalities that participated in the BIGM project, communities in and through the representation of different organized formations of communities have extensively participated in this program. And it is how we make that a permanent feature in the programs that we drive. To the extent that I can say to you, when you look at, we are in the process of finalizing the next generation 5-year plan for SALGA. And one thing that we are looking at if you look at the last plan, the focus has been on the customer of Salga. And the customer of Salga is largely municipalities. That focus is now shifting. It is about the customer of the customer. And who's the customer of the customer? Is back to the same community. So ultimately, the objective is how do we really improve the lives of communities who are the customer of Salga. The second part is a takeaway. Craig referred to PATCOS again. The PATCOS is how do we ensure that whatever we do it as a collective, as a partnership. And it's also been amazing how this program could bring together different partners, and ordinarily partners that have been working together, but more on an ad hoc basis. And the value of this program has been to show to us that we can achieve more when we work together. So those are the two takeaways. But the key question, to not allow the excitement that has been created to dissipate over time is, and the key word, Jeremy, is coordination. So as Salga, we will continue to play the role of coordination, of directing support to our member municipalities. And coordination requires a different posture. You are moving away from being the doer, but bringing the doers together essentially. And that would be the key difference, is how do we posture ourselves to bring together these partners and directing their energies towards our members in a coordinated and organized way. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lance. It's quite profound, that manifestation of the original intent of local government, of the community administrators and politicians. And this is a manifestation of that. And this thing of putting the life and soul into a partnership, working as a collective, not focusing solely on the kind of the structure itself, but the character of the engagement of people that form that structure. That seems to have also been a real defining characteristic. And then, Salga as the coordinator. It must be quite hard in some ways, because rather than being the star performer, you're being asked to be the subtle conductor. And I think that posture shift is a profound one, but it seems to be necessary and timeless. It's the right time for it. Thank you, Lance. Great insights. I'm going to invite, in the same order, my panelists to reflect a little bit on what Lance has said now as well, but also what are you taking away, not just in terms of the big words of the organization, but as a human being who can influence others. Dr. Blau.
The takeaway from this BIGM project, Chair, is that ordinarily the Tsatadu Development Agency was not part of the chosen municipalities that are participating in the program. And through the leadership of Salga here, they extended an opportunity for Tsatadu Development Agency to partake in this program. And how this came about, it's very, very important. And I think we were in Grafreinet in the Karoo meeting around 2018. Both the agency and the Kucha, SEZ, Kucha Development Corporation, were making presentation. At that instant, Chair, we were drawn together with Kucha. Out of, to cut the long story short, through that collaboration that was facilitated through this BIGM program, it resulted into a partnership between the agency and Kucha, because as the agency, we recognize, the special, a mandate of Kucha, that they are focusing on attracting investment with an export outbound opportunity. And we as the district, we position the agency and the district to be the primary growers of, the input material that would be required by an investor that will set up, their operation in Kucha. And the project, we named the project the Pickle Project, because already Kucha was chasing an investor that wanted to set up a canning facility and canning what they call Mediterranean vegetables for export opportunity. And what a better way to position our district as the primary, growers of that. And so the takeaway here, Chair, to me, that we are applying as an agency, the value of extending networks beyond the chosen. This is what Salga has demonstrated. And this project is now is translated into our project document within the CDA, as well as Kucha. So there's alignment that is already happening. And beyond that, Chair, our active participation as the Friends of the BIGM, we participated, on a number of your conferences, being given and afforded an opportunity to, for the agency to make presentation to what the agency is all about. What now has actually translated to the issues that I've raised here, Chair, that you said these are topical issues that needs a warrant some serious discussion. We are walking the talk on how do we bridge how to bridge the bridge between higher education institution. The agency to date is working together with Rhodes University, Makana local municipality, and of course supported by our primary shareholder, the district municipality, to move from ideation to the actual realization of what we call is a strong program of setting up what we call a Makana Innovation Support Facility. That would be founded from how do we commercialize some of the research throughput that have been undertaken at Rhodes, and we use Rhodes network to try and attract investors within Makana and position that facility not only as a facility for the district, but a unique facility where the district and the province could greatly benefit. So this is what we are practically applying, a program director moving forward. And this is informed by South Africa's strategies on what they call your active pharmaceutical ingredient. Eastern Cape is a hotbed of your medicinal plants. But to which extent are we extracting the bioactives for high value crop? And Rhodes University has a strong pharmacy department. So how do we tap into, that technical skills that already exist and come up with this unique product that will serve the district, the province, and the country much more better? Just for the audience sake, first wave of COVID, everybody were rushing for Mhlonyane here. But what makes Mhlonyane efficacious, the efficacy of Mhlonyane is dependent on the active pharmaceutical ingredient that then gives you the protection against a certain disease. Can you imagine if we were to just step into the traditional know-how, the knowledge base of our traditional healers in the province? You talk of the sun and the koi. So that infrastructure is meant to bridge, that indigenous knowledge residing in the communities, how we extract value and come up with a product that will be sought after globally. Natural medicine is one such product. You just have to go to Deskem a small bottle this size will cost you an arm and a leg, coming from natural resources. And some of them, they are found in this project. So we have translated from just the talk to walking the talk together with the municipalities in bringing these entities that are operating in the space of innovation right to the doorsteps of your municipalities. Thank you, Chair.
Fantastic. You know, that example of Mhlonyane, it makes me think, because in Joburg, I see it in the pharmacies now. And then recently when I was in the first wave driving between Grahamstown and Alice, there were people standing with bunches of Mhlonyane selling it. And the price is different. And who gets the money is the tragedy. And I think, you know, anyway, you're making me want to talk more and more, because what I love about it's the posture you've got of creativity for the opportunity rather than lamentation of what's wrong. And I think this thing of, you know, extending the networks beyond the chosen, maybe this is a compliment to the Eastern Cape Salga leadership, but creating more of a movement than a pilot project is what this seems to have been. Dr. Blau, I'm going to blame you for something that I need to take responsibility for. In my enthusiasm to get to you for another round of enthusiastic input, I forgot one of our virtual guests. This also gives me a chance to acknowledge that the team that is working behind the scenes and sending me WhatsApp messages to remind me what to say is working very hard. Please may I apologize, Tato Bopape, to you, who've been sitting here so patiently online from Cogta National. I'm going to ask you to give your input. I mean, you've had the benefit of hearing everybody else. What has Big M meant for you in the way in which you are approaching your mandate? And I'm going to invite you to both give your initial input and your concluding remarks as your only input. Sorry for the earlier omission. Let's hear from you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And you might have forgotten me, but I was just sitting and listening. And I think what I would have to say more to what Greg has said at a national level. Let me introduce myself again properly. My name is Tato Bopape from the National Department of Cooperative Governance, mandated to deal with local economic development. And I've been working with KSD municipality in terms of goal number 8, goal 9, goal 17, and other BIGM outcomes that are mainly to promote sustainable and inclusive economic growth, and also to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development. I think one of the most important things when it comes to a partnership, we need to drill down and understand that if we are to build a strong purpose and led partnership, it is important that we actually cultivate a shared vision for change. Because when we have a same vision for change as a starting point, therefore in creating a shared knowledge base, we will jointly be mapping and defining major issues and also addressing risk and opportunities and stakeholders in the system that will also help to solidify the foundation of local economic development. In terms of what was the focus of the BIGM partnership, where Department of Cooperative Governance has played a role, is in assisting the KSD municipality in developing their LEDs, actually not developing, but reviewing their LED strategies. And we actually learned a lot of things from the city of Surrey municipalities that helped the KSD municipality in terms of different business models and different perspectives and strategies and methodologies, which one of the key takers from the partnership was to value your customers, which is community participation, in order to ensure that not only are we planning alone, but we're planning with them as an inclusive partner within economic development. And one of the things that we've also learned from the partnership is investment attraction. How do we ensure that we, as a municipality or at a local level, we ensure that the municipality is readily available, or is at a position where they are to actually enhance their investment promotion or investment attraction within the KSD municipalities? I think one of the speakers also mentioned one area where you need to appreciate your grassroots innovators. And in appreciating your grassroots innovators, you need to understand that you must actually collaborate with them and come up with ways in terms of how you would innovate different aspects of the ecosystem. And I think in that, we also promoting the district development model that speaks about involving all spheres of government and coming up with a one plan, one vision for the whole district and a metro space. And I think this is a very good initiative that we are working on and rolling out in terms of saying, how do we as government working together, make sure that we have an integrated approach to deal with different and various aspects in terms of a very integrated approach or methodology that will involve all stakes or all spheres of government into coming up with a one plan, one vision, and one goal for 20 to 25 years, a long-term goal. I think I'll leave it there, Chair.
Thanks, Tato. There might be a good reason why we are only allowed to see your name and not yourself. But if we can see you, can I invite you just to switch your camera on and tell us what, you see, we need to, it's so much better when we can see each other. Thank you so much, Tato. I would invite you just to, in your closing statement, just tell us on a personal level, in the way in which you interact in your work as COGTA, but for you as an official in COGTA, what if anything has changed for you in the way in which you approach this, your work?
I think in a way that I approach my work based on the partnership with the FCM and the city of Surrey, which we once visited, is in terms of how do we as an organization work together in developing each other. We need to have a flow system in terms of we need a political stability to actually lead us in doing things. I think if there is buy-in from the political head, where you could see that in the partnership, the municipal manager knows everybody in terms of whether they're business associates, the researchers, what exactly is happening in the municipality. I think we need political stability and political leadership. This is one of the things that I've actually learned. And again, we need to also ensure that in making partnership, we need to ensure that this is a beneficial partnership in terms of sharing the same visions and goals in terms of what we need to achieve. And people think, I think they tend to misinterpret partnership. Partnership is not slowly, there are different types of partnership, I can put it that way. We don't need only to rely only on financial partnerships, but there are other beneficial partnerships that we can actually engage in or just look into rather than your financial partnership. I think one of the key things was investment, attraction and promotion, and keeping the local spaces and the district and metros, all the spaces within our locality very clean to invest, to attract investment. And another key thing is how do we as LED practitioners actually engage with our businesses in terms of, are we building our businesses? Are we discouraging them? What kind of bottlenecks are we as officials trying to address and solve? And I think if the mayor is hands-on and is holding the flag high in saying we are promoting township businesses, then go ahead, that's good. Therefore, we tend to win faster if we have political leadership within different spaces.
Thank you, Tato. And I think Mayor Nelani is pleased to hear what you're saying around the political leadership that was so necessary in the development of the LED strategy in KSD. How I would love if that could continue into the next years, Mr. Mayor. Let me invite my two remaining guests here. Craig, I want to go to you because you just had input from National COGTA. But what's changed for you as Craig in doing his work as part of your organization as a result of this? And then Unosimo, I'll come to you.
Thank you. I think on a personal level, it's just a reminder for me as an individual that, we tend to be preoccupied with theoretical constructs of things, how things work from a theoretical point of view. And we tend to be caught up in a sort of an academic paradigm. And we miss the point. And I liked what Joel was saying around, Mr. Joel, the customer's customer. And I think for me, the program, this particular program, had been a nice constant reminder of why we do things and what is actually needed by the customer. What is needed by the communities on the ground and how they relate to us. It was actually quite refreshing to see actual participants of the program, the real beneficiaries, the customer's customer, talking about the municipality in a positive light. Sitting, reflecting on the program and their experiences, their success. It doesn't always have to be positive, but there was a relationship that was built between business. I can maybe use Koga as an example. I can recall the engagements with the tourism sector and the tourism sector players and so on. And I think that is a reminder to us that we need to be focused on what is important. And what is important is that building that relationship with our customer, because it's going to make things so much easier going forward in the future. That when we do need to depend on our customers, we are able to come to them comfortably and say, listen, this is where we stand on the matter. This is what we can do and this is what we cannot do. So for me, on a personal level, that is probably one of the most important take-homes that I would want to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Onosimo.
Okay, Jeremy. I think mine is very short. One, I should believe when we were first introduced to the program, we were expecting millions of money, and we're expecting to see a different municipality in Port St. John's in terms of tangible infrastructure that is responding to issues of climate change. What I've learned as a person out of this was that even soft support matters, because the knowledge that not just the municipality as Port St. John's, also as people coming from the sector being the province and the colleagues in the municipality under the section and environment, we learned a lot in terms of how to deal with matters that are relating to climate change. I should think we are better people than we were before the program, and also to nurture the relations that have been established to ensure that the end results, we are able to see them. So out of this, what I can say and take away is that we are better people than we were. If another program of this nature can come in another municipality, would be able to handle it in a much better way. Thank you.
Thank you, Onosimo. Another big theme that's come through is the initial expectation of money on this program, and the profound realization that a lot more value was achieved without the initial expectation of that money. I think that's another huge lesson, and it marks this transition, it seems, Lance, from a SALGA perspective of this does seem to be a sort of a real shift in the way in which we see support programs and international partnerships. It's no longer about how much money you're bringing, which invariably gets spent on consultants. It's how much are you investing in politicians and officials in the municipalities themselves, and what's changing as a result in their service delivery and in their relationships with panel members like we've seen today. Councillor van Heerden, I'm doing something radical and revolutionary, which is even creating a little bit of space in the program. and I want to check with you. I can do one of three things with your guidance. The one is I can invite Kubeshni to tell us a few standouts from what she's hearing, but we might have heard enough. The other is to invite two questions from the floor, which would also be radical, because the tragedy of these hybrids is that we tend to focus on broadcasting outside, and you guys just have to sit down and take all the presentations that come your way and watch the panelists. I think we can evolve this model a little bit. And the third thing is that we can break now and have a little bit of a longer lunch. But I'm seeing you thumbs up for some questions. Okay, let me ask for a mic to be made available with the sanitizer and all that's required to make this very safe, and invite two questions that, or two people that might want to ask a question at this stage or give a comment. Aha. Okay, my two slots are already full. That's fantastic. Let me start with the gentleman at the back. If my glasses were even better, I might remember your name, but I can't. So you're the gentleman at the back, but I can remember the mayor of Port St. John's, of course, who will give the second question. So you will go first, sir. And you know, Lance, you said a very good thing, that a number of us are wearing masks, not for ourselves, but for you. Some of us have come from Gauteng. Councillor Nali, you also you'll be the third. So please continue to use your masks as much as possible. I know it's uncomfortable, but my goodness, it's an act of love for the rest, especially from us Joburgers to you guys. Sir. You have to switch it on first. Brilliant.
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson, for the afternoon. My name is Yamkela Sitwana. I'm from the OR Tambo DM, the pilot for the district development model. Mine is too short. It's just a comment to KSD as well as Port St. John's. I just wanted to say they are now cities of benchmark. And now that we have graduated from the BIGM, we need to act as cities of benchmark. We are no longer going to eThekwini and other bigger municipalities to benchmark, but Ingoza Hill, Mhlonhlo, as well as Nyandeni, as our neighboring municipalities within the district, they are definitely going to benchmark from those two municipalities. And also we are laughing together with DEF that since KSD was taking another component and Port St. John's was taking a different component, that provides an opportunity for the exchange. KSD must start learning the climate change and asset management issues, as well as Port St. John's must take into consideration the LED issues. There are two verses, Pastor, that I wanted to mention, the 2 Corinthians, chapter 3, 4 and 5, as well as Timothy, 2 Timothy 3, chapter 3, verse 17. Those one are saying we are confident, we do have capacity, and ours now is to kickstart and keep going. So as Port St. John's as well as KSD, you got all the support from us, and we are mandated both by Constitution as well as the Bible. Keep going, and keep consistency, because there are now areas of benchmark, cities of benchmark. Let's keep the consistency. Other municipalities want to learn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A nice comment. We are sanitizing the mic. I suggest you even still keep your mask on when you're using this mic as it circulates. Madam Mayor of Port St. John's is next. And then Mr. Mayor's got his mic. Ma'am. No, that is very nice. That is sanitized. Nyani. Sure, he's almost polishing it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope it's audible. Now, I have one question to Mr. Joel. It's good for him to be in that space now, because he is amongst those we have been saying we've been conducting them as SALGA. But I just wanted an honest, just in 2 sentences from him, the gap that he is observing in municipalities that lead to their downfall at times. What is it that he can tell us where municipalities get it wrong for them to be in the space that we are usually at? And at times we get to do good, but we have that ability of self-destruction. So what is it that he has noticed? And also to Dr. Blow, he knows that there's something that keeps us together, because in the Eastern Cape, we cannot afford to have our municipalities working in silos. He knows that we have an assignment that we need to finish. He can say whatever he wants to say, but he knows that he still owes both St. John's. So it's up to him to raise his hand in front of the pastor and confess that he knows that he owes both St. John's.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dr. Blow, just sort that out, please. Lance, we'll come to you. And I'm very scared of Councillor van Heerden, because so it's going to just be a very short response. Mr. Mayor, please put the mic on, or is it on? Okay, at the back. Okay, good.
It means Dr. Blow is a culprit here. Because it's a sought after also in KSD. There are some skeletons that. So in essence, in appreciation of BIGM and its role, Lance, I'm also focusing on you in a way. I'm thinking of STR, the one which talks about Caro, the successes of BIGM in terms of how it was managed and how it was advanced. We are here now. We are talking about lessons which we learned from it. And as well as Dr. Blow is talking about an initiative which we are eagerly waiting in our space there. Now, as SALGA, I know PDO, I'm talking to PDO also. As SALGA, the facilitation of the success stories which we have just heard here, not only the ones which are here and the ones which have not been expressed here. How do we keep that and utilize that in such a way that we become better as municipalities?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lance, you stand between me and Councillor van Heerden. Please don't disappoint either of us in your responses and the questions as well. And let me just say, Dr. Blow, you said that you were initially not part of the chosen, but now you certainly are the chosen. So your duty is to, at lunchtime, speak to the two mayors that have asked you for. I'm not going to take feedback from Dr. Blow now, otherwise Councillor van Heerden will fire me. But over the lunch break, there's an assignment to complete, if that's okay. I beg yours? No, you don't have
to accommodate the two mayors, Chair, sorry. The topical issue here is about cannabis.
Yes, you know, I was thinking
there is a silence on Salga because this talks directly to the very poorest of the poor, the growers.
Yeah.
If you talk, you claim to represent communities. Why this silence?
You know, and they say just as you try and close, they open the biggest door of all. This is the economic gold, which is unspoken of. That assignment, can we have the cannabis section at lunchtime, please? But don't smoke in the coffee shop. Okay, Lance, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much.
It's
okay. Thank you very much for the comments and in particular the questions that came from the mayors of KSD and PSJ respectively. I think there is a link I want to draw between the two questions. And maybe let me start with the easier of the two. Not that I'm saying you didn't ask a difficult question, Mayor. But I want to draw a link with the point that you are making and the question asked by the mayor of PSJ on the challenges of local government. The point that you are raising is one that indicates that there are so many good programs, and you've mentioned two, the BIGM and the other one is the STR, where you have a select few municipalities that are through engagements, learning lessons and practicing those lessons internally. But the challenge is that we don't do what the hen does every day. When they have just laid an egg, everyone knows. We fail to do that in local government. So profiling in local government, it's a big challenge. And as Salga, we're also not doing well in that space. We're trying, but not doing nearly as much as we could, even with limited resources. So what we will embark on, Mayor, you would see there are lots of cameras around us today. We want to package what we call the legacy of the BIGM project and start making noise about what has happened in this program. But we want to use the municipalities as our foot soldiers. So you will remain part of taking forward the lessons learned in this program. And we would want to also link it up with the STR and the work that we are doing there in the Karoo area across the 4 provinces. So we'll respond to accordingly so that we can create more awareness around the successes and how these programs could be interlinked. Then the question asked by Mayor of PSJ on just highlighting 2 gaps that are resulting in the challenges that find expression in our municipalities. And the 2 I want to mention in one word each, Jeremy. The problem is with the elected and the electorate. So the first challenge is the elected. The second challenge is the electorate. Let me explain why I'm saying that. We have started making noise. So we are saying now, we started this noise in January this year, and it seems like it is gaining momentum, but it's also seeing we're also noticing that others are ignoring it. We have started a plea that we have made with political parties. And the plea is, please give us the right people to run our municipalities. Simple plea. Please give us the right stature of people with the right skills, experience, and to some extent qualifications to come in and run our municipalities post-elections. So when you identify candidates, be mindful of what is expected in the local government space. It would appear there is very little understanding out there of what is required to run a municipality. And the municipality is a complex institution. We've just done an exercise to motivate why we are making this point. Across our 253 municipalities that have submitted their draft budgets, 4 have not submitted. It is just under 600 billion across the 253 municipalities. The smallest to the highest is 73 billion in the city of Johannesburg. And when you look at the 73 billion rand budget and the 270 councillors that is going to run the city of Johannesburg, there must be a link between the capacity of those individuals and the resources they are going to be responsible for. 73, billion. A billion. I know you have heard there's a billion got lost and you think it's little, a billion. I don't think I'll be able to finish a billion in my lifetime if I live a normal life. And that municipality is responsible in 1 year for 73 billion. Let's get the right people to be identified to run our municipalities. That's the first thing we would want to correct. Secondly, electorate. Elect the right people to lead us. Go out there and elect the right people that are going to lead us. And those people must be with you over the next 5 years. So the communities that we've been talking about earlier must not be only known to you, us as local government, during the campaign. They must be known to us during the campaign, post the campaign, throughout the 5 years of office, because they must guide us on what we should do on their behalf. If we address those two problems, Mayor, we'll be sitting here 5 years from now having a much different conversation. Much different conversation than the current one that we're having. But I wanted to also indicate, whilst we see that there are attempts made to respond, you would have heard the president this week, Monday, in his weekly letter. He made reference to this point. And it didn't come out of the blue. It came out of a conversation with Salga that said to him, Mr. President, in your capacity, please ensure that the right people are identified. But we're already picking up the problems. When you go to the Western Cape as we speak, and the people who are emerging, you'll be very worried. We were told on Tuesday in the Wednesday in the Western Cape, if you thought 2016 was a problem, wait till October comes. Now we can't sit back and do nothing, because if that is the sentiment that we're going to have worse in October, we must use the next few months to rescue the situation. And if we address those, Mayor, we would really be having a different conversation. It would be much easier to be a mayor yourself, because you'll be having proper conversations in your caucus and in your council, because you'll be surrounded with the right people. But if not, I wish you luck, Mayor. Thank you. And I wish us luck as well, Salga, because it would mean, Jeremy, as I conclude, that we need to really set aside a big budget to capacitate councillors. And there's no guarantee that even after spending that money, that there's going to be a positive impact after the training. Thank you very much.
Sure. No, I think sobering words and important words. It must be said, and we must hear it. Lance, thank you so much for making the concluding comments. Please, can I invite everybody to please thank this panel, both in my lounge and online, for a really fantastic set of reflections, discussions. Thank you all. Let's give them one big clap. Not a warm clap, but a nice another clap. Thank you very much, panel. Councillor van Heerden, I'm handing to you. Thank you.
Siyavakala esisabhokwe sikaLance apha ekugqibeleni sitsho ngamandla. I was told kune bags. I'm not sure how to distribute them. Are you going to give all of us where we are seated? Okay. Bayayenza ke, they will put bags next to umntu wayo. It's something little from Salga. After they've done that, or in the meantime, let me just thank Jeremy for conducting this session for us very well. I cannot afford to outsource le power ndiyinikiweyo macingo. Ndiyinikele kuJeremy, I cannot afford. So funa noba incinci lento efuna ndiyithethile, funa ndizile kule podium ndizowuma ndithethe ndithi lunch is served. Xa sowufumene ibag yakho ke ngoku you can go on for lunch. Ixesha ngoku it's 1:15. I think we've got 30 minutes, ne? Oh, how many minutes for lunch? 30 minutes. Quarter to, we must be back here. Thank you very much. 1:45, yes.